Hello and welcome to Two Words Wolves Pod Game 4 After Show. I'm Ryan Eichten. With me tonight is Leo Sun out on the West Coast at an appropriate time to be awake. Leo, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. There's probably a lot of Laker fans, aka Warrior fans, who just kind of double as both. Whoever's still in the playoffs that are still up watching this game, and so it was quite fun to be able to see that all last 5 minutes withstanding.
Yeah, the last 5 minutes was we were kind of chatting before. I'm not sure there's anything to take away, good or bad, from that stretch, because ultimately they're up by so much. Whatever. But yeah, Wolves win game 4, 117 to 110, take a commanding 3-1 series lead, have a chance to close it out game 5 at home. That'll be especially important because if disaster strikes and they do lose that game, that opens the door for Curry to come back. It prolongs the series by 4 days. I think is almost the bigger. I'm kind of like dubious that Curry will even be ready by Game 6, but we'll see what they say on Wednesday. But it prolongs the series 4 days. It would have been 3 days, but the Valkyries play um on whatever day that would be to push it back a day. So like I was looking at the schedule and it's game 6 would be the same day as like a lot of the other game 7s. I think Denver OKC game 7 would be that same day. So you lose all like rest advantage even if you are able to win game 6. Um but yeah, tonight Wolves kind of similar, not quite as bad as the first half of game 3, but the first half of game of this game tonight was pretty rough. Um the offense was better, but the defense was just not, given the state of the Warriors roster, was just not good enough. And then they have basically the best quarter in playoff quarter in the history of the Minnesota Timberwolves, outscored the Warriors by 22. And like we said, it got, I don't even know what word you want to describe the end of the game, but they went on a 17-0 run to start the third quarter, and it was basically over from there. Leo, big picture thoughts, small picture thoughts, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, that first half, was the Julius Randle show. He was hitting
Yeah.
all kinds of crazy shots. I mean, this is the Julius Randle that a lot of Wolves fans thought that they would be getting when he came over from New York. I mean, he's a lot more ISO heavy scoring, back and down, hitting middies, that type of stuff. And he was hitting all kinds of, buzzer beating shots. And I think that low key kind of set the Wolves up for failure because Steve Kerr, I mean, credit to him, he adjusted and went to the zone, the dreaded zone that the Wolves hate playing against. And
Yeah.
that kind of played against the Wolves' hand because Randall had the ball a lot. And the way that he plays is very much like, hey, let me kind of analyze what's in front of me, take a couple of seconds, and then go. And that does not work in a zone where you need to play fast. And so just playing without any pace, it really looked like the Wolves are playing on like 0.75 speed out there. Just the way that they were moving and the way that they were just not reacting quickly enough. And again, you do have to criticize Julius Randle and even Anthony Edwards to some extent. And luckily, Ant hit that pull up three from just past
Mhm.
half court over two defenders that made it seem somewhat respectable, given how dreadful that last like 7 minutes of that first half was. And coming up in that third quarter, you said it, Ryan. It was probably one of the best playoff quarters the Wolves have ever played. I mean, Ant was absolutely on fire. He hit 5 or 6 shots in a quick stretch, including two just like bomb heat check threes. And
Yeah.
at that point, I mean, you could just tell the Warriors are like, we don't know, we can't throw a zone at that. And their whole matchup got kind of jumbled, and it really the rest of the team showed up. I mean, I think Dante hit a huge three and then drew a charge right after. Jaden was making plays. Julius Randle, after he got pulled early in that second half, came back in and played pretty well as well. Kind of fit back in and bullied down low, and so you just really got all of it. I put on the Wolves on the Canis Hoopus Blue Sky that it felt like this is the perfect form of the Wolves in that third quarter. I mean, you have
Yeah.
Ant hitting from deep. You had the secondary players coming in, hitting from deep as well, chipping in, and Julius Randle kind of bruising them in low. Like that's what you want to see. While Rudy Gobert, I mean, wasn't as present, but he was still steady on the defensive end. And the only thing I'll say about that fourth quarter was really that, I joked about it, but somewhat true is that this is probably a good thing for the Wolves. I mean, if you try and take it in context of that, the series isn't over. They still have another game left. I can very much see the Wolves like feeling just too good about themselves going into the fifth game, saying like, you know what, we won by like 25-30. Like, it's easy. I'm just going to bomb from three, whatever, and just play loose heading into game five, which, may or may not be the best thing. And so Finch is definitely a light a fire under them, I would assume, during film study. tomorrow, because a lot of the players are making a lot of those mistakes at the end. I mean, those were your Nas Reeds. They were your even the Keel, for as good of a game he had, had some mistakes. Dante just couldn't seem to bring the ball up or pass it correctly. So it was a little obviously annoying, but at the end of the day, it was pretty much a comfortable win, all in all, in that second half.
Yeah, I mean, a big reason why that down the stretch happened was that they didn't want to play Mike because he was approaching 30 minutes. And I just think probably wasn't even about his minutes total. Just like they had the game in hand. Let's sit down the 30 plus year old and get him some time on the bench. And they sat down Ant as well. That's
Foul
probably just a
trouble.
minute
Yeah.
foul trouble, minutes restriction, all of that. But um, they basically didn't have like their two ball handlers were Nikhil and Dante out there. Like I think that was a big part of it. It's not to like excuse the down the stretch play, but it is what it is. But yeah, you talked about. I thought Ant was pretty brutally bad for the first quarter and a half ish of the game. Pretty similar to game one. He was just the defense. I don't quite remember if it was this bad in game three, but I thought Ant's defense in the first half of the game was pretty atrocious. Um, and it's always hard to tell who's playing well defensively other than like the main defensive guys live, but I'm sure he did a better job defensively in the second half. And like you mentioned, the 3-point flurry down the stretch of the first half and to open the second half was when the Wolves put the game away. So they're down 4 with a minute left, and Ain hits a 3 and then hits the one you mentioned, the buzzer beater. So it's 2 straight threes to close the half. And then midway through the third quarter, hits 3 more threes and they're up 12 and they kind of pull away from there. Dante hits a 3 to put them up 15. They don't that so with 4:18 left in the third quarter, they hit their final 3-pointer of the game, which is interesting. But the Wolves made 16 of their first 33 pointers in this game, which is obviously such a stark difference from going 0-16 in the first half of game 1. It's really this is to me the first like good 3-point shooting game they've had since like game 1 of the Lakers series. They've had like adequate, like what they shot mid 30s last game. That's just fine. But like the first game where you just go, oh, they won that game because they bombed away from 3, which this roster has the ability to do. Obviously, Ant 6 of 11 stands out. But Randall hit 4 of 8. Nas only 1 of 3. Dante hit 2 of 4, which is like
It's
at
a
this
heater
point.
by his standards.
Yeah, Nikhil hit his 1 attempt. It's just been good to see that the poor 3-point shooting, I think, was a momentary blip on the. I mean, it's just like it's. I know people like don't like to evaluate sports this way, but like it's just such a low sample size, even one game. Like we can talk about the lottery later, but I was just kind of thinking about like it's just like I know people think it's rigged, but like 1.5% hitting is not that big of a thing. Like I don't know. So I think it's been good to see that it was just like a momentary 2-game stretch lapse of 3-point shooting, and if there was any mental factor to it, they've seemingly brushed it off.
Yeah, I mean, 16 of 34 is obviously a good night compared to the 8 of 27 for the Golden State Warriors. But I mean, Julius was obviously hot in the first half, and Ant was hot in that second half. So they definitely shot above average. But I mean, look at the rest of them, like you said. I mean, Dante 2 of 4. I mean, you imagine that's something he could do. I mean, Mike Conley's 2 for 6. I mean, how many of his misses were wide open, where it's like you expect him to convert closer to a 50, high 40% range instead of 33%. And yeah, Nas had that 6 step back 3 that he had at some point in the first half. But outside of that, I mean, he was 0 for 2 as well, too. So, it's not like the Wolves shot alarmingly outlier amount of threes that, win in that they normally don't make. So, I do think it's a repeatable performance for them.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I just meant it was good. Like,
it was good compared to what they've been doing, right, all series. And so, by the end of it, Julius Randle, Anthony Edwards, you look at their numbers, they had a matching 11 for 21 from the field. If you even include that garbage time in there, they combined for 61 points, and they became the first duel of Timberwolves players in the playoffs to score 30 or more, last being KG and Sam Cassell in that 2004 run. So, again, I mean, that's what you really want to see, right? You want to see Ant and Julius lead the team and play controlled. And, Rudy, I don't want to say he had a bad game, but he was mostly invisible for that game. He was really giving up a lot of rebounds, or he just even wasn't on the court to be able to corral a lot of those rebounding issues. They were out rebounded by 10 in the first half, and I think he needs to be better there as well too. It was fun to see Rudy kind of get his at the end. I think in the fourth quarter, Draymond tried to drive for a fast break layup, and Rudy just swatted the crap out of it. It was right at the tip of the apex, and he was kind of complaining afterwards. And there's a lot of fun moments in that. Obviously, in retrospect, looking back, the Wolves won, so we could go back and enjoy it. But I mean, you see a lot of the holes in the Warriors. I mean, nothing here is new. I mean, Brandon Pajinski, 3 of 14. He went 0 of 4. I mean, that's obviously way worse than he normally expects. But I mean, at the same time, you're still getting Jonathan Kuminga, who looks like Kevin Durant out there. I mean, the way that he's playing and finishing, I mean, he finished with just only 23 points, but 11 of 12 from the free throw line. I mean, come on. I mean, is that a sustainable amount for Jonathan Kuminga? Draymond Green also came out, and much was made about his 2-point game he had in game 3 right there. And game 4, he came out, he took the very first shot, pull up 2. And I think that inspired fear in nobody hitting that first shot. Like, oh, is Draymond about to go off? Like, yeah, he hit 2 threes in that first half. I think he was 2 for 2 in that first quarter. And then he finished 0 for 4, finishing 2 of 6 from perimeter for the rest of the game. 2 of those misses being air balls as well, too. So, that's what you want. I mean, we'll live with that. I mean, how many times was I watching that game in the second half where Draymond pulled up for a 3, or Kamingo's pulling up for a long jumper? I was like, dude, we take that. And they stopped hitting those shots that they were making. I mean, even was it Gary Payton III? He also went 1 of 1 from 3, or 1 of 2 from 3 to start the game. And then he finished the rest of the game missing his next 3 shots. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where you believe in the law of the averages. Yes, the zone defense was a problem, and they seemingly fixed that by playing a lot faster in that second half. But it played out as you expected. Jimmy Butler, you can say whatever you want. It's just funny listening to Tim Legler on the national broadcast say that, playoff Jimmy, he's here when he's taking it. He scores on Jaden twice in a row. And then the second half, when he's not playing well, it's like, Jimmy just doesn't quite look like himself out there tonight, where it's like he never gets any of the blame. And when he is playing well, it's like, oh, well, this is what he does. It's like this man scored 14 points in a must-win game. He went 5 of 9. I mean, he's incredibly passive. That's what we saw in the rest of the series, aside from game 3, where he really went off. So, I think they fired their best shots. And to be honest, we said it on the broadcast, or I said this on the recording after the series preview coming up before game 1. I said, I think the Wolves are going to give up game 1. They're going to win the next 4 in a gentleman's sweep. I'm not saying it's over yet, but we're heading in that direction, Ryan. So, I think I got to, go to Vegas or do something here, because I think I'm on to something.
Yeah, I mean, this is the 3rd straight game I'm basically going to, on these post-game pods, that I'm going to say this almost the exact same thing. Is the reality of this series without Steph Curry is that the Wolves are just a way, way better team than the Warriors. And it stinks that is true, but the Wolves have to play a C- game to win these games. I thought the Wolves played, if you take out the last 5 minutes, I thought the Wolves played like an A- game, probably. Certainly, I mean, the third quarter is obviously an A+, but like I was trying to think, like, if the Wolves played the 50th percentile game, like the average game for their roster, I'm not sure the Wolves or the Warriors could even, like, that's just without Curry, it's not just that, like, any team without their star is going to struggle to win a second round playoff game. If the Wolves didn't have Anthony Edwards, this series would be obviously very difficult for the Wolves to win. But the Warriors specifically are so built around, their offense is so built around that guy, that it's a reality of the series, and it stinks. Obviously, it stinks most for the Warriors. That, like, if Warriors fans want to come and say, like, we would have won this series without Curry, I wouldn't necessarily try to, like, dissuade them of that opinion. I would understand how they would get to that conclusion. My point would just be like, we don't know. We have no clue what would have happened in the series if
Right.
Curry, I mean, it's probably likely 2-2. Like, I would say the Wolves win this game, win game 2, and the Warriors win 1 and 3, probably. But, like, we don't know. We don't know. Like, Jaden's guarding a whole different person. Like, there's just no way to know. And that's
Yeah.
what stinks the most, and why, like, I wouldn't even, if Warriors fans are pissed and say, like, we would have won, I get, like,
Yeah, sure.
that's a fair enough
Yeah.
opinion to
Yeah.
have. And so the Wolves are almost certainly going to move on from the series. They're very likely to win this series, with the most likely scenario in that being that they win game 5 with Curry almost certain. I did, interestingly, from like covering Warriors media covering this team, one guy said that like if they're down 3-1 like they are now, this was after game 1, that maybe there's a scenario where Curry plays game 5 just in the sense of like they
Yeah,
got nothing to lose.
right.
I
Um,
don't think that that's likely, but it's something to keep tabs on. Um, but the Wolves, here's my position on just kind of the injury of it all. The Wolves have nothing to apologize for. They played who they played, but it obviously stinks for the Warriors, but it does stink for the Wolves that they don't really get the full we talked about after the Wolves beat the Lakers. Like it felt like, especially for you, like we have reached Valhalla. Like
that's
we have
right.
this, unfortunately, because of the Curry injury, we don't get that same satisfaction. Um, and obviously, the Wolves are fortunate that they didn't have to play Curry in the series, but that's the one downside you get.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are fair points, Ryan. And I will say that the Warriors are saying that, oh, we would have won the series had Steph Curry been healthy and Jimmy had not been a little bit nicked up or whatever. Well, yeah, I mean, in what year was that? 2016 when the Warriors played the Cleveland Cavaliers, or was it 2015? LeBron played without
16 is the
15.
3-1 comeback.
Right. Yeah. Where 2015, they played the Cleveland Cavaliers where LeBron was missing Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love in the finals.
Yep.
So you're telling me that they would have won, right? It is what it is. I mean, you can't
We don't
change a
know.
fact,
Yeah.
and you can complain all you want, but I mean, it goes both ways. And so, yeah, it is something where whatever happens moving forward, I mean, the Warriors have kind of put themselves in a tough spot. And they did that when they made that Jimmy Butler trade. And it's not so much that they gave up assets. I mean, yes, we all love ourselves some Maple Jordan over here, but at the same time, I mean, like they didn't give up a ton of value and trade assets, draft assets to be able to get Jimmy Butler. But what they did pay was salary cap. And when they paid for that salary cap, that turned them into we must win now and or next year. And so because of that, Steph Curry, who's clearly still hobbled again, like how many players that come back from a grade 1 strain, hamstring strain, especially their very first time in less than a week. I mean, I don't know if that's ever happened. A lot of people have made about it, but say Steph Curry does push and come back. This is a soft tissue injury. I've had soft tissue injuries before. The chance of re-injury is so high. And when you re-injure yourself, it becomes a much longer issue. And so if they're going to push Steph Curry to come back because like, hey, we need to win now, and we dumped all of our chips into Jimmy Butler, that's going to endanger what's really going to happen for them maybe later on in the series. If say he plays game 5 and kind of hobbles through or aggravates it, then he's going to be out for maybe, you're looking at the latter part of this calendar year if he really re-injures that. And so, but they're forced to do that. And so that's kind of, I posted this again on the Canis Hoopus Blue Sky, where it's, I mean, Jimmy Butler's making what is that, upwards of 50, close to about 60 million, in his contract extension that he has the next 2 years. They don't have that much room to improve the depth around them. And so they kind of have to play now. And now they're going to have to force themselves to potentially, I mean, unrealistically, but potentially play Steph Curry, who's maybe dealing with the injury that's going to limit, what few years he has left in the league. Or, they just have to rest up and like try heal back, get their looks back next year. So they're in a tough spot.
Yeah. I kind of thinking about it more just sitting here. Unless, I mean, if he's like 100% good to go, obviously you play him. But like, I just don't think that's even close to
He's
likely.
got to win
But
3 in a
like,
row. Yeah.
I was thinking like, if he's 50% or whatever, well, you might as well send him out there because you're. And my thing would be like, I don't know, they got to win 3 in a row.
Right.
Even if he is like somewhat hobbled, I would say like, I don't. It might be their best route to just sit him, and you hope for a miracle in game 5, and then you have a rested Curry for 6 and 7. I don't know. They're probably just dead in the water, unfortunately, or fortunately for the Wolves, obviously, unfortunately for the injury of it all. But yeah, I think the interesting thing is Jimmy Butler. I just obviously I think it's well, actually before I dive into Jimmy, this Warriors roster is it's similar to the Lakers roster in the sense of like you talked about the effects of trading for Jimmy, but like I think you would agree they had to do that trade. Like their season was dead in the water. Their their Curry version of the team was dead in the water. Like they had to make that trade. Now, like in the extension, that's the part of it that you don't like, but ultimately that is like Jimmy wouldn't be there if you hadn't offered him in the extension. It did like kneecap the the uh the depth of their team, similar to the Luka trade, but I think in the similar vein to the Luka trade, um, that they just had to do it, and this is the unfortunate side effect, and they'll try to kind of regain some of that depth in the offseason. But thinking about Jimmy, Maybe this is just unfair to him at this point of his career and after taking that tough fall in the Rocket series. But like, if 5 of 9 is like, honestly, like, if I'm a Warriors fan, 5 of 9 deserves more criticism than 5 of 19. If
Right.
you went 5 of 19 or 6 of 7 and 20 or whatever, and like went out guns blazing and they just couldn't get it to go because, like, at this point of his career, like, then that's fine. But like, he was just so passive, I thought. And again, like, that just might he just might not have it in the tank at this point of his career and with this version of the Warriors. But um, yeah, I was surprised to see how passive he was, because even in Game 3 he was much more like aggressive, and I was like, the playoff Jimmy narrative was just not there in this game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how so many of his points now, I mean, relies on he's a physical player. I mean, he has skill. He does have a mid range jump shot, and he has a very flat footed three that he can shoot when he's fairly open or if he's banking them in off one leg. But outside of that, I mean, he's kind of just bull rushing those and kind of a Julius Randle type of fashion, except he doesn't have that same size and doesn't have that same kind of length that Randle does to be able to squeeze those in. I mean, he literally has to score on Jaden by putting his head and going full force, like with a runway into Jaden's chest to get him off him, just so he could get up a shot. And you could tell it's you can call it the injury, you could call it age. It's probably a little bit of all of that. And you don't anticipate him getting better. I mean, obviously he'll get more used to playing with Draymond and the rest of the team. I mean, he'll obviously benefit with having Steph back next year, but it is a thing where how much more are you going to get out of Jimmy than what you're seeing right now? I mean, he's being put in a position where, I mean, is he just a glorified Andrew Wiggins at this point? Or, I mean, you could say that Andrew Wiggins might have even been, a better version of Jimmy in some aspect of what type of role that he's playing as a third banana type of thing. And so I don't know. I don't want to give him too much credit because, again, it's been a while since Jimmy has actually played really strong, meaningful, winning basketball. I mean, when was the last time that he what was it, 2022 when he played the Nuggets, right, in the finals? Was it 23, 22?
23 for the Nuggets.
Yeah, 23. And so it's been, now we're going on 2 years now. I mean, he kind of hasn't been there. I mean, he had obviously clearly didn't even physically show up for the Heat. And then now when he's being forced into that role where it's like, all right, Jimmy, put your money where your mouth is. I mean, let's see this. Let's see the bubble Jimmy. It's like he's not there. So it's still going to be delicious for me as a Wolves fan to see him lose and eat shit if that happens in Game 5. But I will say, like, my kind of bullet points that I had for this game is that it was such a feel good win. Again, I'll say that with the asterisk of like a minus the final 5 minutes of the game where, Ant got his. Ant's been craving to go off. I mean, he's been like, ever since, I mean, he had a huge Game 3 and now Game 4. I mean, he goes off for this huge, effort. He's been craving that. And Julius Randle, I mean, I could tell, and I wrote this down in my notes, that it was going to be a good night for Julius Randle when he's like goofing around after getting fouled. I don't know if you saw about one point, I think he got tripped. Wolves are on offense. He gets tripped by, I think, Baczynski or someone, and it falls flat. And then he's on the floor, and they call a foul on the Warriors. And the camera kind of zooms into Julius on the ground, kind of laying down. And then he does this whole, like, when you're a little kid, you're pretending to be asleep, where he just like goes limp and then like kind of lays down like he's like hurt. And he just pops back up and he's laughing. And I think Julius Randle, I mean, he's such a serious dude that like he gets into his own head sometimes because he feels like everyone's against him. But when he's loose, like that's when he's at his best. Same with Naz Reid. When he's loose, that's when he's at his best. And so you can tell it's going to be a good night for Julius. And it was. Jaden gets throat punched by Buddy Hield, and he kind of retaliates with that, which probably should have been, flagrant one foul.
Yeah,
but at the same,
they didn't call that or intentional or some flagrant on Jaden. Yeah.
Right, or even a technical or something like that. But yeah, I mean, definitely pulled him down. But I mean, Jaden was clearly frustrated because, I mean, Buddy Hield's dribbling like he's the Heisman Trophy, just with one arm out the whole time, like at his neck. And Jaden kind of gets his get back. I mean, Buddy Hield scored 1 point or 2 points in the second half, I believe it is. He scored a layup, I think, in the fourth quarter. That was it. He was pretty much shut down. I mean, he was not there. Even Mike Conley had a confident pull-up three in transition early in the game. And then even when the things were kind of sputtering for the Wolves, he drew a smart, shooting foul for three. Again, that was kind of a fortunate foul call for the Wolves. Kind of got bailed out on the swing through there. Naz Reid, I mean, he had a step back three, but that's kind of really all he did. But I did want to shout out Na and Dante, though, because those two have really, really been struggling, especially for the better part of the playoffs. I mean, this run specifically, but Na was huge. I mean, he hit a pull-up three first half. and then he also finished with that tough lay right at the end of the first half buzzer as well too. He was getting cooked in the paint by Jimmy Butler, by Jonathan Kuminga, but he kind of gave it back in the fourth quarter when the Wolves were finally stretching it out, where the Warriors are going to sub all their guys out. It was Na that was attacking the paint and being the zone breaker. He was one living in the paint, driving full court and laying it up. I mean, again, 5 minutes, last 5 minutes, a little bit of a mess. And even Dante, I said this earlier, but he hit 2 threes, which feels like probably 10 to him, the way that he's been shooting so far. And so, again, for him to finally get that, I think he had that big three when Ant was going off the third quarter and they drew the offensive foul. I think I mentioned that sequence earlier. I mean, that's huge. I mean, we need Dante back if we want any chance of advancing, one, past the Warriors, but two, any further past that in the conference finals.
Yeah, one last point on the Warriors before we kind of focus on our own team. Before the garbage time, the Warriors were 3 of 21 from 3. And I'm not sure what is like a bigger number, only shooting 21 or only making 3 of them. Like, it's just, they're not like, maybe the Wolves are just doing a good job on it, but like, they need Buddy Hield to like hit like 7 threes in one of these games. Like, I don't know. The Wolves probably just took the best punch the Warriors had in game 3 and they were able to play one solid quarter of basketball and win. But the two guys that were fantastic were Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards for the Wolves. Julius Randle, first stretch of the game, he scores 19 points in the first. Let's see if I can pull it up. Like in the first in the first like quarter and a half of the game, he has 19 points and is just hitting from everywhere. Hit one of like just a bomb at the end of the shot clock that was just a heave. And then Ant shows up down the stretch of the first half and then has the big stretch at the end of the second half, puts them up by 20. Those guys have been the two guys this whole playoff run, really. But like the Randle renaissance especially has been, there are so many points in this season. Like at the deadline, we were talking about like, well, you don't want to attach a pick to dump Randle, but like, what if you traded Randle and didn't dump anything? Would that be smart? Like that was like what the conversations were. And now he's been their second best player down this whole stretch. Really, like Ant, Jaden, and Randle have been the only 3 guys that have like have played like 35 plus minutes every single game. Everyone else has been mix or match. I don't want to have the offseason conversation right now, but all season we've kind of say it's hard to imagine Nas not being on the team next year. And at this point, it's hard to imagine Julius Randle not being on the team next year. He's opting out, by the way. I don't know if if people know that's going to happen. He will opt out of his contract. That was probably always happening, but
right.
Yeah, and Jaden's defense, Kyle Tighe had a good, if not NC-17 tweet. Let me pull it up here because I thought he used to be a writer, and if us Canis guys can know that, but Jaden McDaniels' defense in the second half was the type of shit that you typically have to enter a credit card number just in to see. Which I guess if people don't understand that reference, we'll let you live in your sweet bubble life. I'm not sure I've ever paid for that. I want to rephrase that. I've never paid for that type of stuff. I'm not sure that maybe that's me and Kyle's age difference. I don't know. Whatever. But yeah, his defense was, I guess, according to Kyle, pornographic. It was that good. But yeah, Jaden was phenomenal on defense. Kind of classic Rudy. I saw someone tweet out like he plays with Minecraft arms, which is like basically blocks.
He's stiff, yeah.
Yeah. But the defense is always solid. All the starters plus big. Yeah, just like an all around good game. I mean, Nas probably the worst of the 8 guys to play, but it's just they're one game away from the conference finals for the second straight year. They're going to be big favorites on Wednesday night. Yeah, it's been a ride.
Yeah, they just got to finish the job. It's not over yet, and this is how I felt. I had a very business-like approach when it came to the Lakers series. And once we won that, I'm kind of like, whatever, the Wolves going all the way, or I don't care what happens. But I mean, to be honest, the Wolves need to maintain that energy. And again, whether it's them playing like crappy game shootout for that last 5 minutes, in which the Wolves committed 12 turnovers in the fourth quarter. So pretty amazing. Again, they were all by rotation players. But anyways, that being said, is that they have one more game. As much as we want to believe that we survived the Warriors' best shot, there's always a chance that Jonathan Kuminga scores 82 points in this next game, or Draymond Green goes down trying to kick somebody or punch someone in the face on the way down. Like they got to stay ready, and they can't get too ahead of their head of themselves, because again, it's still the Warriors, and anything could still happen this last game. So I think if they play well, stay focused, and keep bringing that same confidence going in, I think they'll be well served.
Yeah, I think the first quarter, first few minutes will be important on Wednesday. Just bury them. Like just you don't if you give them life, maybe they have some stretch. Certainly, obviously, you lose the game, and um, I mean, I would still think they Wolves have a pretty darn good chance of winning the series. But you give them life, and at the very least, you extend the series by 4 days. But bury them early, cruise to a win, and then we can all go watch OKC Denver and figure out. Hopefully, that one goes 7. We can
Right.
try to see who we're playing. But do you want to spend a couple minutes talking about the draft lottery
Oh
tonight?
my gosh. Yeah, we can. I mean, we'll do a quick hits version of it. I mean, my thoughts of
Yeah.
it for those of you who did not see. This is not April Fool's joke. The Dallas Mavericks did, in fact, earn the number one overall draft pick uh, with a 1.8% chance to move all the way up and go ahead and feed into the storylines that the narratives, conspiracy theories that Adam Silver had this fix for the Dallas Mavericks after he forced Luka to be traded to the Lakers. But it is kind of wild to think about when something similar happened. And it's not shot for shot the same, but Anthony Davis also requested a trade and refused to play out his contract with the New Orleans Pelicans, and requested and forced himself really to be traded to the Lakers. And before he even got traded, though, before that even happened that summer, the Pelicans hilariously won the draft lottery and got Zion Williamson in that one. And, we all know how that worked out. So it sucks a little bit for the Wolves in terms that the top 2 picks go to the Dallas Mavericks. The second one goes to the San Antonio Spurs. And so the Mavericks obviously will probably be without Kyrie Irving for the majority of next regular season. And if his rehab goes well, he'll be back for if they make the postseason. But watching Anthony Davis and Cooper Flag play defense together will be a little bit scary. Again, Cooper Flag, I know he's unproven in the NBA yet, but I mean, he is by all counts and measurements, a solid, a very, very good defensive player that should be able to have an impact right away. And so you put those two together with PJ Washington and your Daniel Gafford or, Derek Lively, whoever's still on the team come next season off the bench. I mean, that's going to be a really scary presence in there for them. I don't know if I'm quite ready to crown them as that, but just sucks that the Mavericks are getting kind of rewarded for their ineptitude and trading away Luka and tanking to a place where they just still barely missed the playoffs. And they go on to, earn the number one pick. And the Spurs, again, I'll do my quick thought on them is that they continue to add to what they get. Obviously, they have Stephon Castle, who's a rookie of the year, De'Aaron Fox, and then they have Devin Vassell, who's a solid role player, and Victor Wembanyama. And so they're going to probably add Dylan Harper, right? It's Dylan, right? Because Ron Harper Jr. is his brother, who's already in the G League right now. But yeah, Dylan Harper will be coming in most likely as a consensus number 2 pick. But I think a lot of the headlines we're thinking about with Giannis announcing that he's open to talking to other teams about potential trade requests is that are the Spurs going to set the record with the most wingspan ever on a team and try and trade whatever assets, whether it's your draft pick or whether it's Vassell or maybe it's Castle or whoever, to bring in Giannis. And that would be pretty scary when you think about Giannis and Wemby sharing the floor with whoever is left on that team.
Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts, and I'll try to keep them brief. But one, the Eastern Conference is a dumpster fire and just continues to be. We'll see what, unfortunately, Jason Tatum's injury. It's hard to know what that's going to be like. There's a non-zero chance that was an Achilles tear, and the Celtics are a significantly different team next year. Saw some people saying like that seemed like a lot more pain than the normal Achilles tear. It's not worth speculating beyond that. But certainly didn't look good there. Obviously, even if Giannis stays in Milwaukee's not going to be a championship contender next year with Dame being out, but it's a half decent chance that Giannis is out the door, and it seems like all the suitors are in the West. So just another, and then so now, like you said, the top 2 picks are in Dallas and San Antonio, and I obviously I will say for the Mavericks fans, I'm happy for them. The Luka trade is like the worst thing that has almost ever happened to the fan base, but the front office deserves none of this.
Right.
And deserve has nothing to do with it. It's a random lottery.
Yeah.
And so my thoughts, I know you touched on it, and I don't know if you wanted to go into the conspiracy of it, but I think you didn't because you knew my thoughts on it, which were it's not rigged. I'm sorry, it's not.
Yeah.
It's fun to joke about, and if you want to get your jokes off, that's completely fine. It's not rigged. I tweeted it out. Go watch the very boring lottery of it. The Mavericks needed 4 separate balls to come up in a specific order for them to win the lottery. I don't know how you'd ring it. I know people want to speculate on the accounting firm. That would jeopardize their whole business model if they were to rig an NBA draft. Like it just would. I know like people were tweeting out like their crappy history of like subverting government laws. Like unfortunately, that is more commonplace than going and doing the exact opposite thing you were paid to do. It's not how it works. And as far as like the Mavs of it all, they were a game away from the playoffs. If there was some backdoor deal to trade Luka to the Lakers and give them the first overall pick, well, Anthony Davis scoring 40 points in a playing game almost ruined that plan by they almost made the playoffs. And then the last thing I saw was like, oh, the top 3 being Dallas, San Antonio, and Philly had a whatever percent chance. Okay, let me do this experiment. I got up on Google random number generator that goes from 1 to a million. I'm gonna hit generate. The number I got was 286,653. There was a 1 in a million chance that 286,653 came up, and it hit. So are we saying that Google's random number generator is rigged? No. My point is you could have done that with every single scenario. Any single scenario of 1 through 3, 1 through 4 was going to have an infinitesimally small percentage odds. It's just like the definition of confirmation bias to pick out, and I get it. I get that like I even tweeted out like it's not rigged, but damn sure the way it rolled out made it look like it. And
Yeah.
I get, and certainly like the comparisons to the New Orleans winning the Zion lottery are there too. I want people to like really, if again jokes are fine, but like people to sit down and really like think critically about it. They I The problem is because like I kind of think the first one with Ewing back in the 80s, late early 90s,
Yeah.
that
Early
one might have
90s.
been rigged. That
Yeah.
one
The
had a chance
envelopes.
because there's
Yeah.
just
Yeah. It's
envelopes,
just
and if you kind
envelopes.
of
Yeah.
that one, if you want to go down that conspiracy, I'll let you.
You allow
But
that one.
now
Yeah.
that they do it with like a ping pong ball machine and like a real, no, it's
People,
not
they
like
have media members there. Yeah. It's like it's a whole
I
thing.
mean, think about like if you watch the Oscars, there's a similar like accounting firm that runs that, and like it was a big deal when they announced the wrong winner. I'm pretty sure that accounting firm was not hired back the following year after doing it for the past whatever number of years.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not rigged. I don't know
Yeah.
what else to say.
I mean, you think about the fact that, yeah, I mean, how it happened. I mean, obviously we understand the narrative of it, but just mathematically of that, they won a tiebreaker with Chicago, right? To get the
Yeah.
spot that they did, and
Well, the tiebreaker was rigged, Leo.
right, right, yeah.
They rigged a coin flip.
Right. So what's funny about that tiebreaker that they won was that Chicago was a one number that was away from, who would have won the lottery had it not been the last number been Dallas's number. And so it's just kind of like, the optics of it. But again, yeah, I'll go back to the fact that, look, Ryan, next year, if the Los Angeles Lakers somehow are awarded Paolo Banchero by the Magic, and then the Magic win the lottery with a 3% chance and they draft AJ DeBonsa or whatever his name is, we gotta have a conversation at that point because whichever team is sending their superstar, young superstar, to LA or a major market winning lottery would be a little bit worrisome. But yeah, you talked a little bit about the East being a dumpster fire. I mean, the Sixers, I mean, them getting the number 3 pick, I mean, they jumped up 2 spots, but more importantly, they didn't fall down 2 spots to lose their pick. That's significant in the fact that it sucks because you're rewarding the Sixers for bad process, pun intended, with Joel Embiid kind of, sacrificing himself to
At least
winning an MVP. They were trying to win. They were trying to win
until their season was very clearly over.
Yeah, derailed by a bunch of injuries. And so they're kind of rewarded for, again, signing Paul George to, pretty close to max, I think, extension, and Embiid to a dubious extension as well, too. So I'm not saying that Philly's going to profit that much, but it just kind of sucks that it wasn't a team that was kind of further trying to rebuild than the Sixers are. Charlotte, again, they fall down to number 4. They had a chance. They were one of the three worst three worst records. The Jazz, again, you kind of have to laugh a little bit. I mean, again, I understand that the Jazz's top lottery pick was not the Timberwolves pick that they were getting from us. But the Jazz, again, fall down to number 5. They missed their chance at a blue chip prospect coming out again, or at least a top pick coming in.
Yeah,
And
overall
then,
tanking was not rewarded. All
yeah,
the
yeah.
top
I mean,
teams lost, and
they've
like the
all fell down
Jazz,
to 4, 5, and 6. Yeah, the
the Jazz
Jazz and
especially,
Wizards.
like the
Yeah,
past 3 years, I think have been kind of despicable. Like
right.
two back to not the 2 seasons before this one, they had like a solid team that was like winning more than their talent should, and they gutted it. Thank you, Mike, for Mike Conley and Nikhil Alexander Walker, but they gutted it so that they could start losing games. And then this year, they're like, well, we're not even give you guys a chance to win any games, and just continue to gut their roster. And I get that, like that. I'm not even saying that was the wrong move for them, but like, I'm not going to feel bad for you when you tank
Right.
out of the top 4.
Yeah. So not too much more news kind of moving down from there. Everything else pretty much kind of lined up as we expected. That, obviously we had the big jump from Dallas and the big jump from San Antonio. And Philly got a little bit of a jump as well to keep their pick. But yeah, I mean, the Spurs, I mean, you can color them, the second winner after the Mavs, not just for having number 2, but they obviously still have the 14th pick that they got from the DeJounte Murray trade. So they have 14, 2 and 14 going to this draft. And they have a lot of young talent. And they're most likely, probably, I would assume, be packaging some of them for a notable player. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's a crazy day, all in all. I don't know if we have the time to go into Boston Celtics. But again, you did mention Jason Tatum going down, which sucks for the Celtics. Good for the Knicks in terms of their playoff chances or championship chances. Cat had a pretty good game today as well too. So I was happy to see him play well, despite some foul trouble as usual. So yeah, I mean they're up 3-1, and most likely looking at perhaps the Pacers, who are also up 3-1, and Donovan Mitchell getting an MRI on his ankle, and the Cavs really real in there.
Yeah, it looks like East Finals are going to be Cavs and Knicks,
Right.
barring some
Miracles.
crazy
Yeah.
thing. The Cavs might. I don't know. I don't think. I think it seems like the Cavs and the Celtics, especially if Tatum is. You hope. You hope there's nothing. You hope it's not the worst case scenario, but
Yeah.
obviously it looked like at the very least, I don't. His playoffs might be over, especially if they're, especially they lose Game 5. But
Right.
yeah, the especially if the Nuggets are able to beat the Thunder. I thought they probably missed their opportunity when they weren't able to close out Game 4. But I mean, if the Nuggets win, like the Wolves have as good a chance as any is to win this title.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, the favorite right now is OKC. I don't. It's hard to disagree with that at this point, but the Wolves have as
No.
good a chance as any.
Yeah. The Nuggets are taking it to the Thunder too. I mean, they're not laying down, and so we'll see how that series plays out. I mean, it's 2-2, but yeah, I mean, I think the Wolves, if I remember correctly, I mean, the Wolves, did they sweep the Nuggets this year in the regular season?
They did. I'm
Yeah,
not
and
sure how
they
much that all with
yeah,
Michael
yeah,
Malone as coach, so I'm not even
right.
sure.
And then how many times did they beat the Thunder this year? At least twice, right? Is it 2 or 3
Two and
times?
two, and those
Twice at
games
least.
mean even less because the
Yeah.
Wolves.
Right,
I think
right. Yeah, dude.
3 of the 4 came when the Wolves like basically had no one, and then they
Right.
lost a game in New Year's Eve
Right. I mean, you never
with
want to take too much in
most.
regular season, but you think about how the Wolves have performed, though, just in general, again, just within this year. I mean, is there any other team that would feel more comfortable going against the Thunder or the Nuggets in the West, right? I mean,
Here's what I'll say about the Thunder. I mean, if the Wolves are going to struggle with the Warriors defense, they got another thing coming with the Thunder defense.
right.
My overarching thing with the Thunder is they are very, very good. Probably, I shouldn't even say, but they're the best team in the West. But as far as as far as 68 win teams that have the best point differential in the history of the sport go, they are very beatable
Yes.
given those facts. But the fact that they won 68 games and have the best point differential basically in the history of the sport tells you that they are a very, very good team. Basically, best defense. Like their defense might be better than the Wolves last year, and their offense is top 5, top 3. So,
Yeah. We'll see.
very tough. But the Wolves have a lot more playoff experience than them.
Right.
Um, this Denver series is probably the first one. Unfortunately I thought their down the stretch play of Game 4 was impressive. It was like the first, like when you talk about their like poise in these games, which I would have doubted they could have done. Like they're down 2-1 in a Game 4 and they're losing Game 4, and they were able to come
Yeah.
back and win. Um,
Yeah.
but I think they are beatable. But obviously the Wolves would be underdogs and
Right.
probably somewhat sizable ones. at that.
Yeah. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, we have two more days, well, one day off technically, and then we come back. The Wolves do play back at home in Target Center. Hopefully, trying to close out their first playoff series since God knows when at home. I think ever dating back to 2004 probably. But they do play at 8:30 at Target Center, so it is ready to go.
8:30 Central.
Yes, eight. Yeah, I am working for you. I try to think central for y'all, so I'm in Pacific, but 8:30 central for y'all. So yeah, it'll be exciting. Hopefully, the Wolves can close it at home again. Hopefully, all of you who are local, try to attend the game if you can. Pack the house. Be loud, and let's send Jimmy home. Let's send Jimmy home, right?
Yeah, like the stereotype, the like Americans don't know other languages. We all expect people to know English. The time zone things is kind of like basically like all of Arcana stuff, and obviously it makes sense. Like we're the most of the it's a Wolves podcast, it's a Wolves
Right.
website, but like and my day job is the same way where I work with a lot of people from across the country, but we just do everything in Central Time and like kind of force everyone to
World revolves around
bend
Minnesota. Yeah,
bend to us, at least like with the work I do. So I it is funny to just kind of think about the time zones, and
yeah.
I never have to adjust my thinking. But yeah, Wednesday night Wolves. It may not the Wolves will still be heavily favored if they end up disastrously losing Game 5, but it's to me Game 5. If they want to make the finals, it's
Game
must
five,
win is
so
probably
one.
over the top. But Game
That's
5
the
will
one to
give
do it,
them
though. That's the one to do
Game
it.
5 will give them a much better shot, and it'll give them the rest advantage by at least a couple days over
Right.
whoever their
Yeah.
opponent is, if not for
Maybe a
multiple
week. Yeah.
days.
Yeah. Close to a week,
Like
probably. Yeah.
it'll be an important game. Like we've kind of said, the Wolves don't have to play their A+ game. C- probably gets it done. Just like a college course, you get a C-, that's a pass. Um,
Yeah.
that's
Just
probably
got to
where the
finish your
Wolves are at.
job.
Assuming Curry isn't healthy or playing. But yeah, big game. Andrew and I will be on. One of us live, or both will be on after that game from Target Center, hoping for first closeout game in Target Center in 21 years since KG was up on the scorers table.
Let's go, baby. We could do this.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you on Wednesday.
All right, get home. Drive safe.
Go Wolves.